What's up?
Yeah, we hot this week, aren't we? Welcome to another episode of the Yo What's Up podcast with my co-hosts, Hi Yella, and we are rocking and rolling this week with our second episode of the week, and we're gonna tackle this DEI and Trump's dismantling of it, and what we think about it, and we want to know what you think about it on this episode of Yo
What's up?
So as we all know, President Trump has dismantled DI all through the federal government. And he's also talking about, he wants to get rid of men playing in women's sports. He wants men out of women's bathrooms. And 80% of Americans agree with this. And I don't see how anybody could be against that. Now, the statistics are this. White people, specifically white women, benefited the most off of DEI. 76% of DEI was, the benefits of that were Caucasian white people. 7.8% was Hispanic or Latino. 7.7% was Asian. 3.9% was unknown, and only 3.8%. Did you hear what I said? 3.8% benefited Black people. But when you say DEI, what's the first thing you think of? Black people.
Yes, that's what they think of.
That's what everybody thinks of.
Yeah. It's just kind of like welfare and everything else, right? They think about Black people, right?
And it's such bullshit.
And this is from a credible report,
Yes.
too. And I'm very disappointed in Donald Trump getting rid of the DEI, also getting rid of Black History Month, MLK, all the different.
He didn't get rid of that, only for the military.
No, he got rid of all federal agencies from celebrating those particular holidays. Yes. So I'm not happy with the DEI scenario with Trump at all. And then now corporate America is jumping on board. And the funny part about it, there's been crickets from white women. Crickets. When we need them to be bold and to stand up for this. And then also I've noticed there is Asian American and Hispanic American, so forth, young in their 20s, making statements on the platform saying that, yeah, let's get rid of DEI because Blacks and Mexicans are making up 30% of the leadership role, which is totally wrong. I mean, where are you getting these numbers? And you're Asian, and guess what? You benefit from DEI. And the history of DEI goes from the slavery and the civil rights battles where we can get an opportunity. Just like when we put on a uniform and we perform, there is performance, right? Either you're going to win or you're going to lose, but it's a level playing field, right?
Yes.
What?
So DEI is just another form of affirmative action, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion, and it's trying to get the workplace to accept basically other people that are culturally Caucasian, right?
That's who are qualified. But they have to be qualified too.
And here's the thing, and Trump is saying we're going back to merit, okay? But there's two different, and I know everyone's like, oh, you're always talking about Trump and pro-Trump, Trump. Well, one, yeah, I am, but I'm going to always call it like I see it. If I like it, I'm going to say I like it. I don't care what you think, okay? If I like it, I'm going to say I like it. If there's something that he did wrong, just like with Joe Biden or just like with anybody else, I'm going to call him out on it. Now, this is where I'm going to call it. Black people didn't really get the benefits of DEI. It was Caucasian women. By 78%.
Crickets?
4%. for black people.
Crickets.
If I say DEI, the first thing you think of is black people, and that's wrong. You ain't thinking about the white woman, but she's the beneficiary of it. I always said, and it's not just me, but historians have said that the biggest hater of white women has been white men. It has been. They wouldn't even vote until black people got them to vote. They couldn't even vote.
They wouldn't let them vote.
They wouldn't even let white women vote. Come on now. They didn't. All right. Let me take this about a second. I saw Al Sharpton going through Costco saying that we should, because Costco is getting rid of DEI, that we should boycott Costco. I want to know why Al Sharpton wasn't talking to Joe Biden and saying, well, how come black people only represent 4% of DEI? How come he didn't say nothing then?
You know,
Why wait till Trump
I
get
heard
in?
Target, I heard Costco, but the first one that came out the gate was Walmart. So they're picking their battle because they know there ain't no way they're going to get anybody in the black neighborhood from Walmart from not shopping at Walmart. You know, it's saving money. But the DEI messaging throughout the social media, it got basically put in a situation where it was false information. Because let me remind people out there, any job you have, there's still qualifications, okay? So if anybody should be pissed off at DEI is the HR person who's hiring someone who's not qualified just to meet a quote, okay? That's not, that's not a situation where you got black engineers, black doctors and all that who want an opportunity to perform at the highest level with all the credentials. So by you saying that, the leadership is not going to be colorblind and hire more black people based on their merit, that's a false statement. I don't believe it. I would bet $100,000 right now. I'm on record. But
I know
improvement.
that if you say we're going to hire only on merit, okay, there's two levels of merit in America. And I've seen this through my whole life. And both of us are college educated young men, or not anymore, middle-aged men, or however, whatever age we are at now. We're not young anymore, but I've seen it all my life. I saw it at Berkeley. I've seen it all my life. For me to get the job that a Caucasian male to get, I have to be way more excellent than they are. Because you can be a C student and be Caucasian and be president of the United States. George Bush, Donald Trump. But to be president of the United States and black, like Obama, you got to be a Rhodes Scholar. You got to be the president of the Harvard Law Review. You got to have every accolade and merit and certificate in the book just to get the same job that a guy who can be Caucasian and be a C student or not even a college graduate, and he can get that job.
Secretary of Defense. Look at Austin and all his records, battle scars, and all his administrative skills. West Point graduate. All this, and handle large warfare and everything. And, now you got Pete in there. And merit is based on legacy, right? They don't say anything about the legacy situation or kids getting into schools. They don't say anything about what Donald Trump, look at, the people he's putting in the cabinet. Where is the so-called qualifications? So this is all a fault. This is basically an attack. Really, as I really think about it, people are saying, oh, you're attacking black people and all that, but we ain't getting much. It's really going after white women. Okay? Because Donald Trump got the numbers. He's really going after white women because I'm looking at the numbers. And I'm
looking at the numbers right here.
If anything, the Democratic Party has failed us plenty of times because we didn't get much of these contracts. And where's Al? Where's
even worse
now? Where's everybody else? You had
I'm gonna break it down.
Please.
Every time I see a black mayor around this country, except for like places like Atlanta, Chocolate City, and a couple other places, but for the most part, when you see Especially, okay, we had a black mayor here in San Francisco. How many black brothers was she hiring? It was mostly women, lesbians, and gay people that weren't black. She hired a couple black brothers, but when you talk about heads of departments, very few, very few. And I've noticed when a black person gets in, you got two types. You got the one that's going to be unapologetically black and hire, black people,
Or Willie Brown.
Willie Brown, and obviously because there's qualified black. There's a lot of black college graduates. Me, you. There's a whole bunch of us. We're all over the damn place. We black people are not a monolith. Okay, so there's a lot of qualified black people, and he hired it. Then you have the other black person who wants to appease and make sure that white people accept them, so they hire only white people. To their detriment, they'd usually do that. I've seen it time and time again because they want to be accepted. And we should be past that in America by now, in my opinion. We should be, I hire the best. Of course, you're going to hire your buddies. That goes, I know that's the American way. That's just how it is in life.
The frat brothers.
You're going to hire your buddies. I'm going to hire my frat buddy. I'm going to hire you. I'm going to hire people that I know, that been through the struggle with me in time, whether they're black or white or Asian.
Yeah.
If they're my people, I'm hiring them. That's just how it's always been. And that's why I always tell my kids, it's who you know. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
It's definitely who you know.
Okay.
Now, about corporate America, I want to give some relief on the CEOs of a larger corporation. What corporate America leadership have forgot is that you have to talk to your HR person and hold them accountable, because you're constantly getting this information back or you're doing these pictures and it's all white.
All white.
You go up to Wall Street, ring the bell, all white. But you look at your business, it's 20% black or Hispanic, it's a mixture. You look at your engineer room, it's so you have to hold these HR people accountable when they are unwilling to hire any blacks on a more C-level position.
Now, I don't want to just make it about us, black people. White men have it hard too under DEI, especially in Silicon Valley. Apparently, they hire H-1B visa, mostly Indians, and qualified white men they won't hire because they have to pay them a higher wage. They can hire the H-1B visa person cheaper, and they hold that over their head, so they work them longer hours at a cheaper rate, and they treat them basically like cattle, because if they don't like it, they could just ship them back to India, and then they'll get somebody else. But then they got qualified Caucasian men who are engineers who can't find jobs, and that's wrong also.
Yeah, and that also happened, if you really go back to Yahoo, when Yahoo was down in Silicon Valley. The black engineers, you can go and Google it, the black engineers were protesting and complaining that Silicon Valley overlooked them. There was a huge black engineer community down in the South Bay, all educated and coming to Silicon Valley from all over the world. So yeah, there are been black Americans, white Americans, Asian Americans overlooked by the HB1. They had to train them, matter of fact, but also
they had engineers training guys to take their damn job.
It's their job. But what India has done, they have brought they have a very strong education system, and they're very bright.
But this is what I hear.
But I get it. But I'm just saying they're very bright.
Yeah. But not brighter than I don't
they're
think
getting used.
Yeah.
And the ones who recognize it, they get up and leave.
So
right?
they always said that the H-1B, that they would take the 1% of the population. Man, they're taking H-1Bs for janitors. They're taking H-1Bs for secretaries. They're taking H-1Bs for all kinds of things that have nothing to do with the top 1%. And that was why I think that Vivek, he was supposed to be Vivek. He was supposed to Ramaswamy. He was supposed to be part of Doge. And he had a tweet that lit Americans up, said that Americans were lazy, basically, that Indians work harder, blah, blah, blah. And they lit him up.
They did.
The Trump people lit him up. The people from Silicon Valley lit him up. Hell, I even got on there and said, so basically you're saying that Americans lazy? You mean the people that won the wars? You mean the people that built AI? You mean the people that built basically every technological advance going on in this damn century? All those people are lazy? And so they came in with that deep stake or whatever it's called, deep fake, deep stake, and the AI model that China built.
DeepSeek.
Yeah, and DeepSeek, sorry. And then people are saying, well, maybe if you hired our best college kids, we'd still be ahead, because when you're hiring, they had this whole big article that I read about this whole thing, this H-1B thing in Silicon Valley. And a lot of people complain about once an Indian person gets into a management position, he only hires other Indians. And you could see that, I guess, at IBM and Intel. They only hire their own. So they're very caste system, just like they're still in India. And they're not hiring anybody. Like they say, once one person gets in there and they get them up to management, then that whole department will end up being
Well,
English.
that's
I've freaking
been
racist.
I've been in Silicon Valley.
Freaking wrong.
Indian leadership have been hiring more blacks than what a white HR person has been there. So if you do go down, now they've been hiring more Africans, in regards to, if you'll see a lot more Africans and people from Africa and black working under Indian leadership. So, and I think a lot of the Indians recognize that because they went through apartheid. The ones from India, they understand apartheid. They understand where they stand in white America when it comes down to it. Yeah, your hair is straight, but your color is black. Okay, you just like everybody else. So
I also think that the capitalistic system makes these companies, because you think about this, you got stock and you have stock, shareholders, and you got to keep getting more and more. Your stock has to go up, up, and up. And the only way you can do that is keep increasing revenue. And the biggest drag on revenue is always the talent, always the people that are working. So if I can get cheaper labor force to do the job of, I can get three of those guys to do the job of one of those guys, but I'm going to pay those three guys cheaper than I'd pay that one guy. Well, then that helps my stock price go up because now I can report higher numbers. So I think this is pervasive in Silicon Valley. And I also think that's why they got rid of Vivek, because he said that, and that brought a light to that. And, Tesla, and you got Elon up there with Tesla and all that. I'm pretty sure you saw
Tesla sales.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure he's
in France.
He's taking advantage of the H-1B visa, and they didn't want that conversation. None of them wanted that conversation, because that is a conversation that they would lose, and they would lose their base, because people would be like, hey, wait, you're talking about America first, but you're hiring all these damn Indians.
Well, it's straight black.
Right?
Steve Bannon is going berserk and Coulter about the H-1B visa when Elon Musk mentioned it. That's why Elon Musk is very quiet about that right now. But secondly, when he tried to get into politics in Germany, the numbers came out. The car sales were down 49%. In France, down another 40%.
Because of what? H-1B?
No, I think because he's stepping into the far right area of politics. He needs to stay away. But getting back to the shareholders, I like to see the city of San Francisco do something like they did with apartheid. If you're seeing these type of crimes, you say they're so foul, and you want to do something about it, then why haven't you voted on divesting and some of these leaders stock?
Because they're trying to make money. And when it's all said and done, it's always about the money.
It's all about the money.
And that's all they ever care about. They only care about their bottom line. And I think the DEI initiatives were costing them money, because with the DEI, they have to hire, certain people. They have to have a whole DEI staff. They have to have a whole DEI apartment. And that's more people, and that's more money. And so That's why when Trump said no more DEI, all these companies say, oh, great, get rid of all that because we're going to save some money. We're going to get rid of all that whole staff. We're going to get rid of all these people that make us go to these meetings and make us basically feel bad about ourselves. And really, what it came down to, and when I think of DEI, I don't think of hiring unqualified people of color and giving them a job. I think of hiring qualified people of color and just to making sure that they get a chance at going higher up the ladder. Because we all know that there's a ceiling, because there's not that too many black CEOs out there, brother. In the Fortune 500,
Yeah.
there's a ceiling, then you be vice president, and that's about it. And you ain't going,
Yeah,
you ain't going
there's a
no
ceiling.
further.
There's definitely a ceiling. And, I tell you, the DEI situation, statistics are showing a diverse workforce is more productive, is more creative, and they make much more money. And
100%.
yeah, and so America is building we need to strive on that. We need to fight back against this. And there's been a lot of crickets and people scared to really talk about why DEI has been important. But one thing I am happy is that sometimes you can overkill something. And if we already have certain laws in there, and you don't need all these other departments, you just need to make sure your HR person is looking at qualified non-white people and making that offer to them, going to HBCUs, making sure you are constantly present and being a part of the strength of diversity. And one thing I want to say, straight black, I do not like a lot of piggybacking on what DEI really started off as. It was a civil rights. It was based upon us as black men getting out of slavery, out of the chains, and getting an opportunity. We build. Now you got people who are in choices. You're a transgender. That's your choice. And you have the right to be a transgender. But you shouldn't ask me to pay for your surgery.
Nope.
And you shouldn't piggyback and say, oh, it's a civil rights and all that. No, you didn't. You wasn't in change. You had opportunities as a white man or whatever so you made that choice. And in America, we give you that right to make that choice. It's like abortion, you had that choice. So don't piggyback on civil rights, the civil rights train and the civil rights history. It's not the same. And I'm very upset when they piggyback off us and put a very small percentage and it affects a lot of people.
Some of the things I've noticed, and before I worked for the city and worked for the government, I was in corporate America. I worked for the Prudential this how I got right out of college. And it actually was a good office. It was very diverse. And it, just like I said, it's always about the money. It's always about the results. If you bring the results, you're still working. You don't bring the results, you're gone.
You go.
Period. End of story. That's sales.
Yeah.
Sales 101. They don't care what color you are. You bring in the money, you working.
Yeah.
And they're going to leave you alone. You're not bringing in the money, you got a problem.
You got a problem.
But what I have noticed over all these years of, just knowing people and talking to people and being in, we're in this club and we know people. I have noticed that you can have a go-getter who's a black person, type A, very headstrong, but will always tell you the truth. They don't like him because he's they label that aggressive. But then you take the same person, but you make him Caucasian. Then they say he's assertive and they like him because he's always telling you what he thinks, but he's really down to earth. It's all the adjectives that they give the same person that's doing the same thing. One might be black and one may be white. The black guy, they're going to label as a troublemaker. The white guy, they're going to say he's a leader and he's strong and he's this and he's that. And it's always those adjectives that have always, throughout my lifetime, like I've always been bothered by that because I've always been a strong leader. I've always told people what I think. I've always told the truth, whether you liked it or not. And a lot of people don't like it, but that's just who I am.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm labeled like, oh, that's, like I'm too aggressive or I'm a troublemaker. But then you see a Caucasian dude who's similar, who does the same shit, and he's like, he can walk on water. And I've always resented that. I've always thought that that was wrong. And you could be in a room, and the perfect example is I could be in a room of other leaders, and I could be the only black person in there, and I could say something, and everyone glosses it over, and no one really takes it to heart. And then 5 minutes later, a Caucasian person can say the same exact thing that I just said, and everybody's fawning over him. Like he didn't just said something from Jesus. And I've always hated that. I've always resented
That's
that.
corporate America.
And that's corporate America.
That's why you got to put it on the email, so it never comes back. Like, look, I emailed you that idea, or I emailed you that situation, and you can see the date and see the time. That's why I tell a lot of my people who are in corporate America, make sure you send that email. When you're giving advice and so forth, send the email. Don't call on the phone or nothing like that. Make sure it's on record that you tell them.
And talking to other black professionals, that is they've seen it too. They've said,
Oh, it
yeah,
happens all the time.
all the time. I'll say something in a meeting and people will keep going on like I didn't say anything. Somebody else will say the same exact thing. The meeting stops and everybody's like applauding, like they've just heard something from Moses himself. And I say, yeah, and when you think about that, it's troubling because if you go over that meeting after meeting, year after year, time after time, it weighs on you. And that's why we die younger, because all this stuff is always up against us and we got to jump through all these hurdles just to be heard. And even with this DEI, it didn't make us heard anymore because only 4% of us were getting hired in the first place. So, okay, get rid of it. Fine. But we are never going to get further as a country, as a community, until all voices are heard, until everybody has a seat.